And thank you so very much for staying with Facing the Nation. I know you truly enjoyed that very brief piece there, that brief conversation there with Mr. Roy Geddes, Guyana's steel pan legend. And I know that you're at home. You at home, you did enjoy it because I know one of the technical operators in here, he was enjoying the steel pan music because it's different from what we're accustomed to. And again, that was just to put you in the mood as we go closer to our independence, our 50th independence anniversary celebration here in Guyana. And of course, for those of you who are expecting friends and family coming in, it would be a good idea for them to visit the Roy Geddes Museum there. It's located in Roxanne Burnham Gardens. It is, of course, behind the well there where there's that huge water tank. You can't miss it because it's a museum and it begins from outside. It's really, really beautiful. And it's just unfortunate that it's only around certain anniversary celebrations and so on we remember these places and these little things that exist in our nation. So it's all part of being a patriot and trying to preserve what we have. And it's interesting, you should see the things that Mr. Roy Geddes have. He has so many little pieces. I'm even mixing up my grammar at this point in time because I'm getting so excited. But there are so many things that you can find there, all the photographs, historic visits, and so on. So it would be interesting for you to get your friends and family to go visit the Roy Geddes Museum. I will certainly try to get a schedule from Mr. Geddes as we go closer to the Independence Anniversary celebrations and let you know when would be really good times for you to visit. There is not only a museum, but there's also a sitting area where you can dine, whether it be for lunch or for breakfast or for an early dinner. And then, of course, there are the steel pans, and he's involved in so many other things, especially when it comes to our steel pan. And he teaches the steel pan, of course, as you would have heard in the conversation, in the discussion I had there with Mr. Roy Geddes. Now on to some other matters. I did promise you earlier in the program that if we had time, I would try to give you the exact wording of some of those statements that were released yesterday by Minister of State Joseph Harmon. He is not a controversial person, but some persons in Guyana at this point in time, unfortunately, have made him into a very controversial person. I kept saying to you in the past weeks that the Minister of State is not a person who hides from the public. He has weekly post-cabinet press briefings, and he's always talking to the public. What I am going to do, again, unfortunately, during this week, we would have had about two newspaper articles that the Ministry of the Presidency would have had to call for those articles and the headlines and the quotes and so on in those articles to be retracted because they were actual misquotes. I know some of you by now would have already read today's newspapers, or you would have already heard it on news, whether online or on television last night, that Minister Harmon would have made three statements speaking specifically to three issues that he would have been, in a sense, attacked for over the last week. I'd like to begin by addressing the issue of Brian Tiwari as advisor. And remember, what I'm reading is exactly what Minister Harmon would have said. So first off, the first one, statement by Minister of State, the Honorable Joseph Harmon, on the appointment of Brian Tiwari as advisor. After the general and regional elections of 2015, many persons who indicated their deep interest in assisting the government in fulfilling its campaign promises were appointed to various positions. Some of these persons were not interested in formal employment or receiving remuneration, but were willing to contribute. After some consultation, during which the Minister of Public Security and the Minister of Natural Resources gave advice, it was agreed that such persons should be appointed as honorary ministerial advisors, and that a certificate entitled Instrument of Appointment, Ministerial Advisor, would be issued. Over the period October 6, 2015 to February 8, 2016, 34 persons were identified on the recommendation of the leader of the Alliance for Change AFC, the General Secretary of the People's National Congress, and the General Secretary of a Partnership for National Unity, and the instruments were accordingly issued. Some of these appointments, particularly in the diaspora, received wide publicity. Mr. Brian Tiwari, upon the recommendation of the General Secretary of the APNU, was one such person identified and issued with an instrument. It was subsequently advised by the President, who was not aware of all the appointees, that he was not in agreement with this one and that the appointment should be rescinded on March 26, 2016. I agreed with the decision of His Excellency. I, meaning the Minister of State, Joseph Harmon, agreed with the decision of His Excellency and his rationale for rescinding the appointment. Now, that was the Minister of State's statement yesterday. It was the word-for-word statement from the Minister of State on the appointment of Brian Tiwari issue. And of course, I keep saying the minister is not hiding from anybody, but there are certain matters that cannot be made public immediately. And the unfortunate thing is that our people, and this has been a cry for concern, a call of concern for so many months now. This is not only about this issue or government issue. Generally, we don't read and we don't do enough research on our own, because I can tell you, there are governments all over the world who will not tell a population every single thing that it does. But I understand people got very emotional and they needed an outlet, or they needed different outlets to vent. The Minister of State, the President, has spoken on this particular issue. So we trust that we can all move on, because we have a country to rebuild. We have indeed, yes, achieved a lot in 1 year, in less than a year, because we're not exactly at the 1 year point as yet. We have achieved a lot, but there's still a very, 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 very far way to go. And we need to get on with the business of running our country. It was three releases. I will read one other release and then we will get the matter over with. As I said, I know it's already in the public domain, but for some of you who are probably at home and you have not gotten a chance to hear exactly what was said or see the exact releases, the exact statement from the minister, I decided that I'd use this opportunity today to let you know exactly what was said by our Minister of State. The second statement that I'd like to make public to you is the statement by Minister of State, the Honorable Joseph Harmon, on mode of travel while in China. And of course, the reason I chose this one is because people saw one photograph going around social site and all over the public, and of course, they assumed and they came to their own conclusion. I, meaning Minister of State Joseph Harmon, and again, these are his exact words, visited the People's Republic of China on official government business in March 2016. The ambassador of China to Guyana, who was in country at the time, made arrangement for the minister to meet officials of 4 companies which had signaled their intention to make significant investments in Guyana. These companies were located in Beijing, Shanghai, Hebei, and Heilongjiang provinces. In this regard, because of the significant distances involved and the limited time available on that trip, the ambassador made arrangements for these companies to provide transportation, both air and land, for the Minister of State to travel to their respective head offices. On March 27, 2016, one such arrangement was made for Minister of State Joseph Harmon to visit Longjiang Forest Industries Group, a company situated in Heilongjiang Province. The Longjiang Forest Industries Group is a state-owned company that had acquired 55% of the shares in Baishanlin and is intended to fully take over the company in 2016. 2 officials from the Longjiang Forest Industries Group, along with 2 officials from Baishanlin, accompanied the Minister of State on the aircraft on the flight from Beijing to Heilongjiang Province to attend the meeting. At the meeting, the Vice Director of the company, Mr. Wang Dongzhu, in the presence of officials of Baishanlin, gave the assurance that the company's officials will be in Guyana by March 2016 to complete due diligence for the takeover and to satisfy and expand on the obligations of Baishanlin to Guyana. The Minister of State used the opportunity to convey all of the concerns and expectations of the government and people of Guyana with respect to foreign investment generally and those with respect to Bai Shan-Lin in particular. The minister made no official release on these matters at that time, since a prerequisite to that release would have been a formal briefing of the president and cabinet. The publication of a lone photograph, therefore, without seeking to investigate and report on its context, was not the work of the Ministry of the Presidency. The Minister of State wishes to make no comment on the motivations for its publication. Now, those two statements, as I said, came directly from the Minister of State, Joseph Harmon. He issued 3 statements yesterday, one on the Brian Tiwari issue, one on the trip, the official government business trip to China, and of course, the other statement would have been on the delayed action against Bai Shan-Lin by GRA. The air has been cleared, and I trust that we can all move on from those matters. People at home, I don't want you to misread me. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that the government of Guyana must not be criticized. That is not what I am saying. I am saying constructive criticism is accepted, it is required, it is a must, it's necessary, and it is needed. That is the only way that you will be able to know what your flaws are. And we keep saying that this thing about governance, it's about consultation. If the public doesn't criticize, we will not know what pleases the public and what does not please the public. However, what I am saying to Guyanese at this point, do not allow people, because it's unfortunate, but there are elements in society who are out to not necessarily provide constructive criticism. They're out to personally attack, demonize certain politicians and people who work with those politicians or close with those politicians. That is what I am warning you against. I am not telling you don't criticize. We need you to criticize. And you also have to remember that when you try to personally attack someone and demonize them and pull them down, you're not only affecting that person, you're affecting the person's household and the person's entire family. Yes, I know the argument is there because I myself say, look, you're a politician, you're a public figure, this is what you signed up for. You're supposed to expect that this will come to you. Fine, that is all well and good, but people need to try to develop a conscience and to put yourself in a certain shoes. When you personally attack, especially when you fabricate stories and you go after public officials in that manner, you're doing much more harm than good. And I say it's unfortunate because sometimes, and of course I'm coming down to wrap up time, because sometimes when we hear and we see these attacks, especially on social media, especially when those things are not true, the same person who carry out these attacks are the same person who, when there's an upsurge, an unfortunate upsurge in the suicide phenomena, we hear these people saying, oh my gosh, the government needs to do this to address suicide, we're making people unhappy in this. You are contributing to it because you don't know how much a person can handle or how much a person can take. But for those of you who are strong supporters of the government, have no fear. Their shoulders are very broad. Our shoulders are broad, our skins are thick, and we can handle it. We know there is business to get on with, we have a country to run, and forward we shall move. That's all for this week on Facing the Nation. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Roy Geddes for having that conversation with me. And I'd also like to thank the Deputy Mayor and the Mayor, of course, Ms. Kamal Prasad, the Deputy Mayor, and Mr. Gifford Marshall, the Mayor of Bartik. It really was interesting to have them. And remember, Bartik will ceremonially become a tongue within the space of less than a month. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to tune in again next week. Of course, I always urge you, be good Guyanese citizens, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. Goodbye.
Go to $30,000. Let's watch it change. I need Lars and Kate. Join me, please. All righty. here we go. As you know, this question is worth $1,000. If you give me the number one answer, the question is this. What foreign language is most useful for an American to learn? Lars?
Espanol.
Espanol, he says. Spanish? Number one. Our $2,000 question is this. Name something you hope doesn't happen when your boss comes over for dinner. Jen?
You blanked out.
Quicker?
Your family embarrasses you.
Your family embarrasses you. Your family embarrasses you. No. Let's find out what the number one answer is. A meal is a flop. All right, here's our $3,000 question. Name something that requires exact change. You there first, Lindsay? Have it. Nikki, quick answer, please.
Dinner bill.
The dinner bill. Show me a dinner bill. No, that's not their number one answer. Ah, boss. Ah, boss, of course. The $4,000 question, besides other people, name something people kiss. Linda?
A dog.
A dog. Show me a dog. Yes, your pet or animal, sure. Final question for five.